Stay safe, reduce your contacts. Live from Waterford and Dungarvan, this is Waterford at 1.
Good afternoon, I'm Sinead Aherne. Today's top stories: no decision's been made about where the headquarters of the Technological University for the South East will be located. The Cabinet Subcommittee on Education will meet today to discuss plans for the phased reopening of schools. And in sport, it's transfer deadline day across Channel. The setting up of a technological university for the South East is in danger of becoming a political football, according to Waterford TD Matt Shanahan. The Independent says it's critical the headquarters be located in Waterford. He told Damien Tiernan on Daisha today that the process risked becoming like Brexit.
The kites that are being flown now, principally probably by government, is trying to test out, what they may have to do to satisfy different political allegiances, and that is not how a college structure for the South East region should be arrived at. Everything is being held a bit like Brexit. All the major decisions are being held to the very last, so that the process can be, browbeaten into people for a period of months and months, and at the end then suddenly we'll get to the really hard talking points, and these should have been dealt with at the start, in my opinion.
Minister of State Mary Butler says there's absolutely no decision regarding placing the headquarters in Kilkenny. The Waterford TD says the Minister for Higher Education, Simon Harris, told her the suggestion was mischievous.
My understanding is, having spoken to the Minister at length, that this is completely kite flying in relation to headquarters based in Kilkenny, and is completely mischievous, wherever it came from. I don't know where it came from. And he has informed me that he will be issuing a statement today that there has been absolutely, categorically no decision taken in relation to Kilkenny.
Senior ministers will meet later to discuss options for this year's Leaving Cert. They'll also be updated about ongoing negotiations for the return of special education this month, as our political correspondent Sean Defoe reports.
It's unlikely there'll be any immediate announcement or clarity on what the Leaving Cert will look like this year or when exactly schools will reopen. A group of senior ministers will discuss the issues later and update the Cabinet tomorrow, but discussions and negotiations with unions and interest groups are continuing and may even run into next week. Many students have called for calculated grades for the Leaving Cert like last year, though some do want to sit a physical exam. All are concerned about the amount of time they've missed, including this student, Dan.
Are we prepared to sit this exam? Will we be prepared to sit this exam? I don't think it is the best possible option by a long shot.
The unions, the ASTI and the TUI, have both called for full physical exams to take place. President of the ASTI, Anne Piggott, says even in that scenario there would need to be changes.
We would like modified papers to the point where it would be doable, it wouldn't cause too much anxiety, there would be plenty choice for students.
Taoiseach Micheál Martin has said that the preference from government is for a combination of calculated grades and written exams, but they're still working out how exactly that can be done this year. Sean Defoe, Leinster House.
The number of COVID-19 patients at University Hospital Waterford has fallen slightly. However, it's still one of only 2 hospitals in the country with more than 100 patients with the virus. 107 people were being treated at the Waterford facility last night. It's down 1 from Saturday night. The number of patients with COVID in intensive care increased by 1 to 8. The Minister for Foreign Affairs has condemned in the strongest possible terms the military coup in Myanmar. A number of senior politicians have been arrested, including the country's leader Aung San Suu Kyi, who was the face of the resistance during the military dictatorship. Minister Simon Coveney says it's an undemocratic takeover of power.
Well, we condemn it in the strongest possible terms. I mean, this is a military coup. It's a completely undemocratic takeover of power. And don't forget that pre-2011, I think it was, when Aung San Suu Kyi was released, Myanmar was run as a military dictatorship, effectively.
The local authority in Waterford was able to reduce the number of families in emergency accommodation by 93% within 3 years. That's according to Fine Gael Senator John Cummins, who was speaking before the Oireachtas Housing Committee. He believes other areas can learn from Waterford.
An individual homeless figures by 55%. Despite the presentations that have been coming in, effectively doubling in the same period. And, I'm firmly of the belief that if it can be done in an urban centre like Waterford, it can be done in other urban centres.
A Waterford woman is the new National President of Network Ireland. Aisling O'Neill is the manager of ArcLab's Research and Innovation Centre at WIT. She'll be working with more than 1,200 members to raise the profile of women in business in Ireland.
Yes, we're definitely seeing more female entrepreneurs, but the rate of female ownership of businesses in Ireland still is at 20%, right? So it's still not where we would like it to be when we get up to those kind of more executive or leadership levels. The level of representation is even worse. So there's a lot of work to be done. There's great work being done.
Students who wish to apply for third level education through the CAO must register by this evening. Anyone who's applying for a restricted course such as medicine, music or art must also have their preferred courses listed by the 5:15 deadline. Anyone else who hasn't applied will need to do so to get their CAO number, or they'll face a fee if they're late. Guidance counsellor Gemma Lawler says those students should put down some courses too.
It is not essential to have your courses down, all your courses down on the CAO today. What happens as of May 1st, you can put in courses, you can take out courses, you can change the order of preference with regard to your courses.
613 new cars were bought and registered in Waterford last month, at the drop of 15% on January 2019. There was an improvement, though, in the sales of electric cars in Waterford. 151 electric and hybrids were driven out of the showrooms in the first few weeks of the year, up from 89 last year. However, sales of diesel and petrol cars fell by 30% and 25% respectively. Toyota was the most popular brand in Waterford last month. There are calls for the 1st of February to be made a public holiday. St Bridget's Day marks the start of spring in the ancient Gaelic tradition. Christopher O'Fuelon is the Green Party local area rep for Dungarvan. He says it's about celebrating new beginnings.
She wasn't always a saint. She was a goddess before she ever became a saint in the old Celtic tradition. And she was connected to the pre-Christian festival of Imbolg, which was a festival to celebrate the first day of spring. The whole festival and the idea of St. Bridget, or Breed as she was, is about celebrating the natural world and new beginnings and new life.
Gardaí and Waterford are seeking applications for their annual Youth Awards. They want to recognise extraordinary young people between the ages of 13 and 21. The closing date is the 8th of March, with a ceremony to take place later that month. Inspector Gavin Hagerty hopes members of the public will nominate deserving young people.
And what we're asking for, I suppose, is the community's help in identifying those young people. So where are they, who are they, and what have they done? If they could get in contact with us, we'd appreciate it, because we really, especially this year and all that has gone on this year, really want to recognise the young people who have made a contribution to the society in which they're living.
Make the smart play with Virgin Media. Check out their smart home packages at Virgin Media, George's Street, Waterford.
Sponsors of the sports news on WLR.
Starting with soccer, Newcastle boss Steve Bruce says he hopes to bring in one or two players before the transfer window closes tonight. They've been linked with a potential move for Leicester midfielder Hamza Chowdhury. Meanwhile, the club have rejected an offer from Bournemouth for Matt Ritchie. Bruce wants the Scotland international to fight for a place in his team.
Matt's found himself a bit frustrated of not playing and not being a regular in the team, and I understand that totally, but he has to understand that, you know, if it doesn't happen, then he gets his head down and works his way till the end of the season.
Republic of Ireland international Shane Long could be set for a deadline day loan move to Championship club Bournemouth. Long has only started 2 games for Southampton this season. Liverpool are closing in on the signing of Ben Davies. They've agreed a £2 million deal with Preston for the central defender, while the Premier League champions are also being linked with Schalke defender Ozan Kabak. Waterford native Jim Goodwin says a collective team performance helped his side beat defending Scottish Premiership champions Celtic. St Mirren secured a 2-1 victory at Parkhead this weekend, and Celtic now trail Rangers by 23 points. Jim Goodwin's at the helm of St Mirren and says his players never disappoint him.
A really good collective team performance. There might have been 1 or 2 people scratching their heads before the game at the lineup and at the system, but I asked the players to buy into it. I felt that that particular system would have been a success if we all done what I was asking them to do, and I've got to give great credit to the players. Honestly, it doesn't matter what I ask them to do, whether it's in a training session or in a game, whether they enjoy it or they don't. They never ever don't do what I'm asking them to do.
And in golf, golfing journalist Brian Coup says Waterford's Seamus Power just needs one weekend to go well for everything to change. The West Waterford man missed the cut of the Farmers Insurance Open at the weekend after receiving a late call-up. The 33-year-old also underwent elbow surgery in November. Brian Cou's from the Irish Golf Desk.
Anybody can have their week any week, and that's what Seamus is looking for, just that one big week where he either wins or finishes second, gets enough FedEx Cup points to move right up that money list, and that could happen to him at any week, anywhere, at any time. He's got the game, he's got the length, he's a brilliant putter, he's got a superb short game, he's got a fantastic attitude, and I think he's gaining in confidence all the time out there. It's not easy to make it on the PGA Tour.